On this episode of China Uncensored, emails, she-mails. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Why be a Christian when you can be a communist? And finally, maybe caving to China over Taiwan was not such a good idea. This is China Uncensored. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. You know, when I heard about the Hillary Clinton email scandal, I was saddened because it had nothing to do with China. Oh, if only it had been China that hacked her emails, not Russia. Well, good news, America. It's possible China may have also hacked Hillary Clinton's emails. According to two sources who spoke to the conservative news website The Daily Caller, a Chinese company inserted code on her server that forwarded copies of Clinton's emails to China in real time. And the intelligence community inspector general apparently warned of the problem, but the FBI failed to act. But on the plus side, it gave Trump the chance to talk about China, crooked Hillary, and the tainted FBI all in a single tweet. It's like Trump getting a McFlurry with Oreos and a cherry on top. The FBI has denied Trump's tweet, but hasn't made any statements regarding the Daily Caller report. Of course, a spokesman for Clinton has denied the server was hacked from China. All we know for certain is from this DOJ report. It says that former FBI Director James Comey originally said it was reasonably likely that hostile actors gained access to Clinton's private email server, but later changed it to possible. The FBI also claimed that although it was possible, they did not find conclusive evidence of it. So, no proof from the FBI, just two anonymous sources talking to a conservative media outlet. Not exactly a solid indictment, but it sure makes a clickable headline for China Uncensored. In other news, following trends can be dangerous. Don't give in to peer pressure. Just because all your friends are doing something like taking Holy Communion, kids these days are doing that, don't just blindly join in. Christianity is not for everyone, but communism is. It will be required. At least that's the message the Chinese Communist Party has given to Christians in China. They've been forcing house Christians to sign statements saying they renounce their beliefs. This is a standard one, republished by VOA. The statement says, among other things, I had limited understanding of Christianity. Taking on Christianity as my belief is also blindly following the trend. Now I have a more comprehensive understanding of religion and religious beliefs. After further studying Christianity, I have a clearer understanding of my spiritual needs. I announce that I will not participate in Christian religious activities from now on, and I will no longer believe in Christianity. Christians have never been treated well in China. First, you have to belong to a church approved of by the Chinese Communist Party, or your belief in Christianity is illegal. There are tens of millions of house Christians who belong to underground churches or illegal Bible study groups. But the Communist Party's persecution of Christians has gotten pretty extreme in recent years, like tearing down crosses, which sometimes randomly catch fire. Oops, how did that happen? Or telling people to replace pictures of Jesus with pictures of Xi Jinping. Look, if Nero couldn't stop the Christians, the Communist Party sure isn't going to be able to. Then again, maybe, in its own way, the Communist Party will embrace some parts of Christianity, if only to keep its soldiers upright. President Trump has finished trade talks with Mexico, and apparently, no more NAFTA. But obviously the bigger question on everyone's mind is, what does this mean for the ongoing trade war with China? And experts say Trump's success means China will be in a more defensive position moving forward. According to some experts in the financial services company ING Group, it strengthens the U.S. position to play hardball with China. Here's what Trump's National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow had to say.
Our deal with Mexico shows that free trade, fair trade can be done. I think in this global game of world trade politics, I think China is now on the defensive because they see that the USA is beginning to get some momentum, and I think that's great.
And here's what President Trump had to say.
They want to talk, and it's just not right time to talk right now, to be honest with China. It's been it's too one-sided for too many years, for too many decades, and so it's not the right time to talk.
Of course, that's not the feeling in Beijing. two former top Chinese officials told the South China Morning Post that China will win the trade war. And you can always trust top Chinese officials. Speaking of good ideas by top Chinese officials, the one-child policy. For decades, the law was that most couples could only have one child, or face stiff penalties or forced abortions. The idea was to keep China's population from growing too quickly. But eventually, Chinese officials realized, oops, the current population is getting old and we didn't make enough young people. So a few years ago, they changed it to a two-child policy. But even that wasn't enough to fix China's demographics problem. So now, for the first time in decades, Chinese people may be allowed to have multiple children and hopefully less forced abortions. There's a draft reform law to China's civil code which could end the two-child limit. But don't think that obsessive top-down family planning controls are over. One Chinese think tank has even proposed a plan to force couples who don't make enough children to pay extra taxes. China's first homemade aircraft carrier has hit the water. And despite being made in China, it didn't sink. It's part of the Chinese regime's attempts to project military power around the world. But it's not just limited to the world. The Chinese Communist Party also has set its sights on space. China has launched a record number of satellites this year. The two most recent launches were part of the Beidou system, China's answer to the U.S. GPS precision timing and navigation system. China wants to rival the United States in GPS technology, but it's also part of a much larger campaign of space warfare that seeks to place the Chinese regime as the dominant space power. And finally, you know how all those airlines have been caving to Chinese demands to stop labeling Taiwan as a separate country in their drop-down menus? I mean, I get it. Taiwan is small, and mainland China might have the world's biggest market for airlines just a few years from now. Well, guess what? Caving to the Chinese regime's demands is not working out. Surprise, surprise. The Chinese government is giving big subsidies to Chinese airlines, and U.S. airlines are finding it, quote, difficult to make a profit. Truly, I am shocked. Although one airline found a clever workaround to deal with the Communist Party's demands to include Taiwan as part of China. On the United Airlines website, there's a page that allows you to set your current location for currency/payment purposes. And they list a bunch of countries. China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong are listed separately, but based on their currency, not their country/region status. Taiwan's foreign ministry thanked United for its flexibility. I mean, even though Taiwan is definitely part of the People's Republic of China, the Communist Party can't deny that Taiwan has its own currency, right? What's that, Shelley? Nope, they're still upset. Apparently, my favorite state-run media, the Global Times, wrote this article called United Airlines Don't Think About Outsmarting China. It accuses United of attempting to fool Chinese and playing word games. Right, because it's not like the entire One China policy is some kind of giant word game that the Communist Party wants the rest of the world to play. And now, it's that time when we answer questions from fans who support China Uncensored on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Weesh asks, how did you guys come up with the wacky Chris plus straight man Shelley personas? Did that happen organically or by design? What are you talking about? Shelley is almost impossible to deal with. She's a total diva and says the wildest things, whereas I am the rock of this show. What's that, Shelley? No, I don't know what you're talking about. Everything I just said was completely true. Stop rolling your eyes at me, I can hear it. Thanks for your question, Weesh. And remember, YouTube is constantly demonetizing us, taking away ads temporarily or permanently across tons of our videos. That's because we talk about controversial topics that don't fit into their well-manicured community guidelines. So, we rely on support from you, the viewers. If you can, support us by contributing to the show on Patreon. I know I pitch this every episode, but seriously, you are what keeps the lights on. If you want to learn more, I put the link below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. Want to learn more about China? Then check out our new podcast, China Unscripted. Matt, Shelley, and I sit down with China experts to talk about some of the most critical China news out there. Trust me, it's way more entertaining than that sounds. Look for the China Unscripted podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify, as well as on YouTube.